hellos. Anyway, that's all the hellos I've got. Okay, so what attracts everyone to looking at the name, the innovation stage at 10:30 on a Tuesday morning? It's like you come in the door and you're like, let's go to the innovation stage. It's going to be the best stage ever. And of course, you're right. My name is Joe Haslam. I'm a professor at the IE Business School in Madrid, so there may even be some of my students here. If not, any students here? No. Oh, they're clearly, okay, very good, fantastic. Okay, brilliant. So my job is just to introduce everyone as they come on and make sure that the people as advertised on the program are actually the people that are here. So if you could come out please, Susanna, come out please Jan, and come out please Nir, and sit down, okay? So we'll have them all sit down and then we'll test that the microphones are working, because it's absolutely no good to anyone to say really cool stuff if nobody can hear what they're saying. So quick micro test, Susanna, say hello, hello.
Hello.
Hello? Nothing? Nothing. I see. Don't take it personally, okay? Don't take it personally. It's like, okay.
Let's see if they.
Okay, here we go. And then finally, deep voice.
Hi, everybody.
Deep voice. Brilliant. Okay, so to kick off the innovation stage by BBVA on the 2nd of October 2019 at the South Summit in Madrid. Big round of applause, please, for Susanna, for Jan, and for Nir. Yay!
Great. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the South Summit, to the innovation stage. My name is Susanna Chute. I am the head of Amadeus Ventures of Amadeus IT Group. I head the startup investment program for the company. So welcome today to this fire chat with these two distinguished gentlemen here. So maybe I'll elaborate a little bit on the context of this discussion, urban mobility. Why is this important that we need to all sit down together and talk about it? So based on all the researchers' statistics, by year 2030, more than 60% of the urban population are going to be living in cities. And that more than 2 billion people are expected to enter into middle class, and a lot of them would like to or want to have cars. And car ownership is expected to increase from the current 1.2 billion to double in year 2030. And expectedly, the congestions that is going to be caused as a result is expected to bring 2 to 4% of impact, negative impact to worldwide GDP. And not to mention about the negative consequences of pollution, etc. as a result. So overall, it's a big challenge for the cities that we are living in today. And we have these two gentlemen here who are working diligently on solving the challenge of urban mobility. Let me introduce them once again for you. So over here, Jan Cuevas Mons, CEO of Wando Ferrovial, and Neil Eres, CEO of Move It. Thank you very much for joining me today on this panel. Maybe I'll start with Jan. Just a quick introduction. Jan is a serial entrepreneur, business designer, and also an architect. Previously, he worked with BBVA. He successfully launched the digital insurance business Muno. And before that, he was the founder CEO of Think Big Factory, a tech company that creates products and services for Internet of Things that he has successfully exited. So thank you, Jan. I understand that today is a very exciting day for you. Today is the launch date of the co-developed new app, Wando and Move It. Would you please share with us a little bit more about this new initiative?
Of course. Good morning. It doesn't work. I think I have to use this. So good morning, everyone. So today is really a very important day for us because we are launching with Move It a new app. Basically, if you know, Move It is #1 public transportation app in the world. And now, thanks to Wando, our company, thanks to that, now you can have new mobility services available, such as car sharing, moto sharing, e-scooters, and soon we will have also taxis. So everything, all transportation services available in an app. So that's really important for us. And today it's launching in Madrid. And during the next 6 months, we'll launch in the main cities in Spain and Portugal. So today it's a really important day for us.
Excellent. Thanks, Jan. Let's turn to Neil, also a serial entrepreneur, having founded Action-Based, Optimal Plus, and Eron before starting Movit in 2011. Welcome. Can you tell us a little bit more about Movit, how you began, how you evolved, and the major progress and milestones that you have gone through so far?
Yeah, so as you said, Movit started about 7 years ago, and as of today, we're the leading mobility as a service company that provides a lot of information about mobility in towns. But we initially started as a public transit app and evolved into providing all type of mobilities in the cities. When we started, only 15% of the cities around the world had transit data. Today, Movit have more than 550 million users around the world. We operate in more than 3,000 cities in 92 countries. And especially here, in Spain, we do have more than 23 million users combining iOS, Android, and web users. So almost every second person in Spain used Movit once at least. So, and we're very excited to do this partnership with Ferrovial and Wando and to make sure that all these great people in Spain and Portugal will have access to the great new mobility services.
Yeah. And Jon, maybe let's elaborate a little bit on what is mobility as a service. What is it? Why is this such an important thing that you are bringing to the market?
Yeah, I think it's really important to understand what is this concept of mobility as a service. So, in the end, if we think about the value proposition, in my opinion, it's freedom. It's to have in your hands as many mobility options as possible in a unique experience. So, in the end, we are talking about an app or a platform to plan, to book, to buy any or most of the transportation services available in a city. But where I think it's important here is to understand the mid-term, the long-term vision of this concept, because in the end we are talking about, in my opinion, the perfect alternative to the car, to the private car. And this is really important because in the end we see that the car is a big bundle of different transportation services. So we have an interesting number, which is how much we are spending in Europe in a car. So if we say yearly, we are spending 6,000, 7,000 euros per year. We are talking about more than 500 per month. That's absolutely a lot of money. So we believe that with the new transportation services available right now, we can create the small bundles, personalized bundles that are going to be cheaper. So that's for sure. And there is another interesting number: is 80% of the trips in a private car are less than 10-mile trips. So we can cover that with many of the services that we have available. So I think it's interesting to see like real examples. So to give you a real example, a couple of months ago, I decided to call myself to the heaviest users of our current platform, Wando. And this is people that is spending about between 150 and 250 euros per month on mobility. And I met Marcos. It's an economist. He works in the city center in ZLM, and he lives in Pozuelo. Pozuelo, it's about 17 kilometers from city center. He takes all the days public transportation to go to the city center to work, and after he uses car sharing to go back to his home. And in the weekends he uses moto sharing. So after using Wando for 3 months, he's deciding to sell his own car. So that was the amazing thing. It's like he's already doing that, and we are seeing that someone is doing that. So I believe it's going to be important for him because he's going to save money, absolutely. But there is also an important implication in terms of sustainability. We are talking about that all these vehicles, all these services are electric. So we are reducing the emissions a lot, and he's going to help doing that. So for us, I know it's a small percentage. I'm talking about one person, but it's a huge step for Wando because in the end, we are helping people to move in that direction. So I think that's the important part around the concept.
Great. Is that we are all convinced that mobility as a service for like end user, for commuters, like it's a great value and the most efficient way of moving around the city. For Amadeus, we are a travel company, and so from the perspective of a traveler, it is even more relevant when you are in a foreign city where you have no idea how to navigate through the local ticketing systems or not having the local currency to be able to really navigate this type of mobility service. And so maybe come back to like mobility as a service being a business. Public transport and micro mobility, like these are services that are notoriously difficult like to make as a business because the ticket size, the price per ticket is relatively low. And so from your perspective and your experience, so how are you seeing like building your corresponding business as a sustainable business model, like in that
So
space?
maybe the specific ride is a small amount or micro transaction, but if you think about our monthly behavior, as Jon mentioned, I mean, people are starting to shift from car ownership to start purchasing a ride. When you start purchasing a ride, either per mile or per type of vehicle, then you can offer people almost like a monthly package where the transaction becomes, I don't know, 300 euros a month, where you can use a lot of different mobility aspects. And it is a combination of convenient and saving money. Jan was talking a lot about saving money, but I just want to let you know that the highest friction now is connecting the multimodality. How do you connect between switching your scooter to a train or a subway and then back to a bicycle? When these things are going to be frictionless, means payment will be in one location and connectivity about the multimodality, then we can shift way more people to have a more streamlined ride rather than even considering to own a car.
I completely agree. I think that the interesting thing here in the midterm is to create subscriptions, to have this opportunity of paying an amount of money per month and have all the transportation available in the same experience, because in the end it's true that customer experience is key, but if we build that model around that, I think that's a huge opportunity.
Yeah. And what do you believe should be the role of the regulator or public agency in this context?
So first, I think that nobody can avoid the regulators. The regulators actually controls the pricing of the public transit, and they are investing in the infrastructure. So regulators should be very much involved, mainly in planning and building the infrastructure, but also I think the regulators should allow a standard way to connect and pay for different types of mobility, and let the free market leverage these platforms and make this available and smooth and clear to the public.
I think regulators are very important in this sector, because in the end, I think that they need to own the vision of what is happening, but they don't have to be in the field. I think that they need to collaborate with private companies to create the services, but they need to own the vision and regulate accordingly. So here I think there is this important debate around the change of paradigm in this industry. Like if this is going to be more a platform economy thing with one or two dominant players that are going to take everything, or it's going to be an API economy approach where there are going to be many different companies, because we will have also different local governments, different regulation. But if the regulators decide to create or to force operators to open their data and create open APIs, this is going to be a completely different industry. I think that's interesting to understand. I've been like many years working on banking industry, and this is what happened in banks. So we have a regulation from Europe, it's called PSD2, and it's forcing all the banks to open their data. And once this happened, it was really different. The fintech startup ecosystem changes a lot. So the value chain is sliced, and there are many parts of this value chain that are very important. It's not only the user part, so the APIs, the technology, there are many companies that are important here. So I think there are going to be more companies, more competition, and more options for the users in the end.
Maybe in one sentence, mobility or the freedom of movement is a human right. And the regulators must insist that this will be affordable and possible, but not necessarily they need to do it by themselves.
Interesting, and very insightful. Maybe a question for you, Jan. Ferrovial, like we know Ferrovial as a constructor and an infrastructure company. Why is Ferrovial interested in mobility?
I think it's very easy to explain. So Ferrovial is a global infrastructure operator. So it's specialized on toll roads, airports, and they have an amazing track record of adding value through technology to that infrastructure. And this infrastructure, if we see airports, toll roads, are transportation infrastructures. So there is millions or billions of events that are created in these infrastructures every month. So it's a huge amount of data and knowledge that can be leveraged to create new digital businesses on top of that. And I think that the ambition of Ferrovial is that. They think that there is a huge opportunity there. And we have Wondo and other startups that are building inside Ferrovial that are adding new capabilities in terms of customer experience, technology, data, entrepreneurship, and new methodologies to build these new digital products and services. So I really believe that Ferrovial is going to look very different after the next 5 years. And one of the main drivers is going to be mobility.
Excellent. So taking that global perspective, no? So the understanding that like for the Wondo Move It joint project to start with, we're talking about Spain and Portugal. Move It is a global company. You're already in 90 countries around the world. Taking it to the global context, is looking at players like Google, Uber. How do you see yourself fitting into that big picture?
So we took a different approach where, if you think about the world, there is a supply and demand. Supply is kind of like services of transportation, and demand is coming from the user side. Companies like a company like Moveit, we took a very clear decision not to operate any service. So the way we look at it, we are actually partnering with Ferrovial Wondo to integrate their amazing mobility services into Moveit platform, which already have millions of people locally, and we can allow local companies with great services to make their services available for already existing large amount of users, the demand side. So the way we see ourselves is that we provide a huge demand where we partner with great companies that can create the supply, and by doing that, we can actually match these demand and supply marketplace.
Excellent.
I think in that sense, I think it's interesting to see the size of this industry. Is that we are in a huge sized industry, so it's everywhere. There are many different local governments, and I think it's related to the thing I said before about the change of paradigm. So I think that here there are many opportunities for different companies because there are going to be many different approaches in different countries, different cities. We have local governments. We have many challenges to face here. So it's going to be, let's say, a very important challenge for us to start going to other countries and to start seeing other opportunities.
Great. I think we're all very excited that as of now, we are already having the options of micro-mobility services at our fingertips. Moving towards a little bit to the future, how do you see urban mobility transformed like in the next 5, 8, 10 years?
So I'm sure some of you know that our the last company that invested in Moveit was Intel through Mobileye, which is an autonomous vehicle company, maybe the world leader autonomous vehicle. We definitely believe that autonomous vehicles in different form factors will start to play a role in the services provided. Means that Wondo will be able to provide some of the services or shuttle services through autonomous vehicles. So people will still have to move and use mobility in the same way, but the type of mobility will start to change as we'll see more electrical, connected, autonomous type of services getting into the picture. And I believe that in the next 5 years, we'll see more and more pilots that will transform into commercial services using these technologies, and that will change dramatically not just the way we move, but also the cost of mobility.
I think it's interesting to analyze the demand, how it's going to look like in 10 years. So I think there are probably two hypotheses that are important. One is the autonomous car that I believe that is going to be in the streets in 2030 probably. And the second hypothesis is that the demand of transportation it's going up because there is going to be more population, more density. So we will have these two things. So I believe that if we analyze right now the demand worldwide, it's more or less like this. So we have 5% is about walking and bicycles, 40% is trains, 20% is buses. There is after like a 3% is new mobility on demand services. And after we have private car, which is the rest. So it's about 30% is private car. So I believe that this private car is going to move down to 5 to 10% in 10 years. So I believe that this can happen because these new mobility on-demand services are going to go up, thanks also to autonomous vehicles that probably are going to be a big percentage of that mobility on-demand services, including shuttles, like autonomous shuttles, including robotaxis. So this is going to take a big percentage of this part of the mobility on-demand service. So I believe that buses, for example, the buses that we know today, I don't think they're going to exist in that way. They're going to be flexible routes, completely autonomous vehicles, completely electric. So that's what I think.
Maybe in a different form factor. Why do you need a 50-seater bus where you can serve, let's say, less density area with 9-seaters? One interesting thing is we collect today 5 billion data points every day from our users. And if you think about it, we'll recognize this change as it happens and we'll be able to show cities what's going on.
Cool. Thanks, Neil. Thanks, John. I'm very excited of this cleaner, less congested city center that we are going to be living in. And John, before we go, you have something to tell our audience today.
There was something important. Just to let me ask a question to the crowd. So, how are you planning to go home today from South Summit? So, I imagine that most of you are going to take a bus or a metro. So, if you take the metro, you need to go to the metro station. It's 10 minutes walking. After, go number 3, change to number 5, change to number 6. Another 5 minutes, and you will get to the city center. It's about 45, 50 minutes. Second option, take a taxi. If you take a taxi, today South Summit is crowded. If you go to take a taxi, it will take like 15 minutes walking, waiting to the taxi. So you will need to wait like 15 minutes, another 15 minutes to go to the city center, and 20 euros. So it's very expensive. And third option, download, move it, or update the app. And now, thanks to Wondo, you will have the opportunity of going by car sharing, moto sharing, e-scooters. We have these mobility services available here. So they are inside the building and outside the building. So you can see all of them here. And you will get €5 for free to go to your home. So it's almost without spending any money. So it's a huge opportunity to experience future of mobility. Thank you.
Okay, very good. It's all over. Bye-bye. Thank you for the €5. Thank you.